The 76ers season is officially over. After losing to the Miami Heat in 6 games, they are officially out of the playoffs, and we need to ask some questions. Because it has came to my attention and to a lot of people that the 76ers have been a disappointment and they should have done a lot better than what they did. This team had championship aspirations, and a lot of people thought after the James Harden trade that this was one of the best teams, if not the best team at least in the Eastern Conference. Well, if we skip some time, we can clearly see that the 76ers were not built to win a championship, and there are so many things that go into that we're going to be talking about in this video. With the 76ers going back-to-back years going out the second round, I think we need to ask the question, whose fault is it? Is it Joel Embiid? Is it someone like James Harden? Could it even be Doc Rivers? Whoever it is, we're going to be finding out in this video who is to blame. Now, I could start with the most popular answer, which a lot of people are saying it's James Harden, but I actually want to talk about Doc Rivers for a minute. For the last 2 seasons, we've all paid attention to Doc Rivers and his post-game interviews because they've been very interesting to say the least, and well, it was no different this time around.
But don't worry about it, James. I already know what the media gonna say.
Wait, that's the wrong clip.
Have you thought about job security?
I don't worry about my job, Howard. I think I do a terrific job, and if you don't, then you should write it. Because I worked my butt off to get this team here. When I first got here, no one picked us to be anywhere.
Wait, what? At the beginning of the season, the 76ers definitely were contenders, and especially when they traded for James Harden, a lot of people picked them to win the East. I'm gonna be honest, I don't think Doc Rivers is gonna be with the 76ers after this season, which honestly should not shock a lot of people. Now, is he to blame per se? Well, when we look at the fact that he has been known constantly on so many teams to choke leads and just not do well in the playoffs, it gets really hard for me to try to even defend him, because he said a while back that, oh, everyone always says that I'm a bad coach even though I led the 08 Celtics, and I mean, all you guys do is talk about my blown 3-1 leads, when at this point it's not shocking that we do. Now, when it comes to Doc Rivers and we look at the fact that every time he joins a team that is supposed to do well, they really don't amount to what they're supposed to, again, it gets really hard for me to defend him because it seems like that he's the outlier. He is the common denominator of this. However, in this particular situation, and I can't believe I'm gonna say this, I don't think he's fully to blame, and I'm only saying that because of the reports that I'm seeing and something that I saw yesterday during the game. Now, I actually cannot find the clip of this, however the quote is very much out there and it wouldn't take that long to find. Now, during the game they always do a section where it's like mic'd up coach and it shows the coach talking to his huddle, and during the huddle Doc Rivers said, "Come on guys, fight for this, fight for this," where the Philly players had literally no emotion. Mind you, they are facing elimination. If they lose this game, they're out of the playoffs and a lot of people are going to eviscerate them. Number 1, I believe it because I saw it during the game with my own eyes, and number 2, this has actually been said many times before that this has happened. Like, this has actually came out before, and I think games during this series, and I think maybe even last series. If you have to beg your team to try in an elimination game, then I'm sorry, but there's no return. You guys have issues and you need to get it figured out. If the narrative about Doc Rivers is true, where his team is just not trying and he's telling them to actually try, then I'm not gonna fully blame Doc Rivers for this. However, there is one player that there's no doubt in my mind that I'm gonna be putting some blame on because he fully deserves it, and that's James Harden. James Harden clearly hasn't looked like himself for the playoffs, and it's been very evident. And in the second half of this game, the man literally was non-existent. He went 0 for 2 from the field and just didn't shoot. And this was his response when asked why he wasn't being aggressive in the second half.
We only took 2 shots in the second half. Was there anything Miami did, or was it just...
We ran our offense, the ball, I feel like the ball moved and, it just didn't get back to me.
Now, this would work for just about any other player. I mean, I can understand. If the offense isn't getting you the ball and they're not running the offense around you, then I can completely understand. However, there's just one problem with that argument. It's James Harden we're talking about, arguably one of the greatest ISO players of our game. Oh, and by the way, that amazing offense you were running was just trying to get it to Embiid and him throwing up jacked up shots, which by the way, he wasn't making most of them. Oh, and also getting the ball to Maxey, but other than that, the offense wasn't much of an offense. You just weren't taking shots. You're literally an ISO player. You are literally known for taking shots and creating your own opportunities to score. I find it very hard to believe that James Harden, arguably one of the greatest ISO players, could not create his own shot. You were also getting blown out in the second half. If the offense wasn't working, why would you continue to go with it? You took 2 shots in the second half. You literally cannot make this up. So So the excuse of, oh, the offense was just not coming to me is a complete lie. And if you even look at his demeanor, he clearly doesn't look like he wants to be there. I don't think Harden really gave a fuck that he did absolutely nothing in that half. I don't think he cared that his team just got eliminated. The vague answer of the offense just wasn't getting me the ball is not going to work with a lot of people, especially when we look into the fact how the Philadelphia offense was ran. I mean, it wasn't just one game. Let's look at the last 2 games that James Harden played, because in those games he had 12 points per game while shooting 3 free throw attempts in both of them. He also had 9 made field goals and 8 turnovers, on top of that shooting 1 for 5 from the field in the second half of game 5 and 0 for 2 in the second half of game 6. In those 4 losses, he went 0 for 7 from the field in the fourth quarter, and he went 3 for 16 with 7 turnovers in the second half. So it wasn't just one game of, oh, he just wasn't getting the offense to work around him. He's been terrible this entire series. Now, some people are starting to speculate that James Harden only did that on purpose because he wanted Doc Rivers out as the coach. I don't know how true these reports are because Joel Embiid was actually trying during the series. So I don't want to hear any excuses. James Harden has straight up been playing bad and there's no other answer to it. Earlier in the video, I did mention that maybe we can blame Joel Embiid, but honestly, I'm not even really taking that as a legitimate answer. I mean, sure, there were times when Joel Embiid did get stopped and they did lock him down on certain plays and even in certain games, but the man also did have a broken face. And the fact that he gave a lot more effort than James Harden did when the man could have just gave up and said he's not going to play for the entire series. I think it shows a lot of character for Joel Embiid that he's someone that actually does want to win. So with that being said, it is very hard for me to say that I think Joel Embiid was the sole reason why they lost. I want to say it's a mix of James Harden and Doc Rivers and maybe just other things that I didn't discuss in this video. But James Harden shooting 0 for 2 from the field in the second half and not being aggressive, it's going to be very hard for me to say that there's any other answer that it's not Harden that we should be blaming. This is supposed to be a superstar. This is someone that's supposed to lead his team because Joel Embiid clearly wasn't all there. And the man folded. He straight up folded. If the reports are true that the 76ers want Doc Rivers out and Doc Rivers does get fired and then next year we see good versions of Harden and Embiid and the whole team as a whole, then I'm completely wrong about James Harden, and in a year or so or whenever it is, I'll be admitting when I'm wrong. You guys are really good at holding me accountable for takes that really aged bad. Most people would hate it, but honestly, I don't mind it. I mean, I know a lot of people that they say a really bad take and they just delete the tweet or pretend like it never happened, but I'm willing to admit it. So honestly, I'm hoping that James Harden proves me wrong. Maybe he's not bad. Maybe he was trying to send a message. Well, I do think it is still important to note that James Harden still did have a really big effect by not playing good in these last 4 games. It's still important to note that it's only been 1 day and we're really going to start to understand things when it comes to the offseason. If you want to see my freezing cold take about the Dallas Mavericks, click on the screen right here.